What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. Now, I just want you guys to picture this. It's October 2025. The Vancouver Canucks season is about to start, and John Tavares is skating out at Rogers Arena wearing a Canucks jersey for the first time. The crowd goes absolutely wild because nobody saw the signing coming. But here's the crazy part. This scenario isn't as far-fetched as you might think. And there are some very real reasons why both sides should be interested in making this happen. Today, we're exploring everything about John Tavares as a potential Canucks free agency target, from his production trends and leadership qualities to the financial gymnastics it would take to bring him to Vancouver, and whether this move could actually make the Canucks a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. So let's go ahead and dive right into this. We're going to take a look at an article from our friends at Canucks Army that talk about this, and it's written by Stefan Roget. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. John Tavares always wanted to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. We've all seen the pajamas, and by all accounts, he still wants to be a Maple Leaf. The 34-year-old pending UFA told Toronto media recently that when it came to extension negotiations, you do everything you can to try to find what works on both sides and what is fair for me, my family, the team, and the club. I've expressed my desire to stay and make it work. So if it's at all possible, Tavares will likely re-sign with the Leafs. But let's imagine for a moment that it's not possible. Change has to be coming to Toronto after yet another devastating playoff collapse, and one of the simplest ways for them to affect that change is to let go some of their most central free agents. Mitch Marner would seem to already have one foot out the door, and if I'm being completely honest, I do think Mitch Marner won't be a Maple Leaf next season, and that's just my personal opinion. But if his departure isn't enough change, maybe it's Tavares too. Perhaps the Leafs go as far as to not offer him a contract, or perhaps they lowball him, telling him something along the lines of, if you want to stay, you're going to have to take a significant hometown discount. Remember, even in his original homecoming, Tavares still signed for an average of $11 million a season, a record-breaking contract at the time, and even in his statements about staying, he clearly mentions an expectation that a new contract be fair to him. That's enough to say there's a real possibility that he and the Leafs don't come to an agreement, and that raises the question of where Tavares might go instead. Given his young family, one has to imagine that destinations in the immediate vicinity will be first on his list. We're talking Ottawa, Montreal, maybe Buffalo, and Detroit across the border, but we don't see any obvious fits there. Montreal needs a center, but are in the midst of a real youth movement that Tavares just doesn't match. Ottawa, Buffalo, and Detroit, despite their many roster-related needs, are all pretty well stocked at the center position. But there is at least one team out there that can, if not close proximity, at least offer Tavares a quick, direct, border-free flight back to Toronto, a team that needs help at the center position, and especially help of the high-producing variety. That team, of course, is our Vancouver Canucks. So let's take a look at Tavares, the player. Everyone knows who Tavares is by now. Part of the reason for that is his incredible consistency as a player. Tavares scored 54 points in 82 games as a 19-year-old rookie back in 2009, 2010 for a point-per-game average of 0.66. Since his sophomore season onward, however, Tavares' point per game has stayed between 0.85 and 1.12 for a remarkable 15 straight seasons. That's the sort of level production that rarely happens in the best league in the world. It's easy to assume that Tavares has slowed down as a result of his age. He played the entire 24-25 season at age 34 and will hit 35 shortly after camp opens in September of this year. And yet, Tavares just posted 74 points in 75 games, including 38 goals, tied for the second highest goal total of his career. The truth of the matter is that Tavares has never had a game built on speed or agility. He's always succeeded despite his skating, not because of it, and it's those other components of his game that have helped him produce so consistently. The hands, the vision, the quick release in high traffic, those are qualities that tend to fade less with age, which makes Tavares less of a liability than the average mid-30s UFA. There's an argument to be made that Tavares has aged like a fine wine, especially as it pertains to his all-around abilities. On paper, 24-25 was one of his worst defensive seasons, marking only the fourth time in his career that his Corsi and expected goals have dipped below 50%, and yet Tavares was still on the ice for 19 more goals for than against at 5-on-5, and did so while playing against a slightly above average level of competition. It's also worth mentioning that Tavares remains one of the best faceoff takers in the league, rocking a 58.3% rating in 2024-25, fifth highest among regular centers. Lastly, because we are talking about a Maple Leaf, we've got to talk playoff concerns. Overall, Tavares has 53 points in 75 career postseason games. That's not a terrific record, and it is a significant step down from his regular season production. Last season's 2 points in 7 games looked especially bad, though that came at the tail end of one of Tavares' worst seasons. This year, he rebounded to 5 goals and 7 points in 13 games, which is better, but still not up to his usual standard. The question for any team signing Tavares is this: is his playoff slowdown a result of the general postseason malaise hanging over the entire Maple Leaf franchise, or is it a Tavares thing? We'd bet on the former. Now let's take a look at the cost. Remember that Tavares wants to be signed for something fair. If he were going to take a discount, he'd almost certainly take it from Toronto. A team getting him to move is going to have to pay him pretty close to his due. On term, at least we can narrow it down. Tavares will be 35 before season begins. We imagine he'll want some sort of commitment on his next contract, but commitment to a 35-year-old might be a term of 3 years or maybe 4 at the very most. For salary, we could certainly suggest a pay decrease for Tavares from the $11 million in compensation he currently collects, but by how much? Tavares is the 35th leading scorer over the past 4 NHL seasons. He's easily the second most productive UFA this year after teammate Marner, and the cap ceiling is going up, way up. Tavares' limited list of potential destinations is the only thing that can really step in to limit his salary. If he were shopping himself around to all 32 teams, someone would no doubt pay up big for him. He might even crack double digits again. The Canucks should not pursue him to that extent. Instead, they should offer him a salary they are comfortable with, hope that it's the best offer from his choice destinations, and leave it at that. If he signs, great. If not, move on to other targets. What is that comfortable amount? For our money, it can't crack $8 million this season. Should probably more realistically start with a 7 instead. On the whole, that seems cheap for a point-per-game player, but at the same time, it's expensive for a 35-year-old. Tavares may come with consistency, but that doesn't make him absent of risk. If this is a path that the Canucks are going to go down, they've got to do so carefully. Now let's take a look at how John Tavares would fit in the Vancouver Canucks lineup. There's definitely an argument to be made that Tavares is the best UFA center available. Sure, if we're talking all-around impact, that distinction probably goes to Sam Bennett, but Tavares has always handedly outproduced Bennett, even at Bennett's best. What the Canucks need most is an injection of offense. No UFA, aside from Marner, offers anywhere near as much offensive power as John Tavares. Tavares might be the only 2C available to the Canucks outside of the very expensive trade options that could truly drive his own line, something that could be necessary on a team that is also short on productive wingers. GM Patrick Allvin has stated a desire to acquire players that fit the age range of his core, which revolves around Quinn Hughes. Tavares is not that. But at the same time, we've heard so much about the necessity of making the most of these last years of Hughes's current contract, either to convince him to stay or to take advantage of his presence while he's still here. If returning to competitiveness as soon as possible, meaning as of 2025-26 is the goal, then Tavares could certainly move the Canucks closer to that goal. He may only have a couple good years left in him, but maybe that's all the Canucks need from him at this point. So there's John Tavares. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like the idea of us potentially targeting John Tavares? Do you guys think he's a little too old for the Canucks to target? Do you think he would maybe even go for $7 million if the Canucks were to offer him a contract like that? Would he, stick his nose up for it, or is he willing to wait for Toronto to give him an offer? Do you guys think Toronto is going to offer him an extension to keep him and to keep him in his hometown of Toronto? Would he be willing to take a discount if the Maple Leafs offered it to him? Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about the possibility of John Tavares being a Canucks a UFA target. Obviously Sam Bennett being another one. But I really found this article fascinating, as I've never actually thought of Tavares as an actual potential option. Yes, people have said, "Oh, Tavares," but I was always under the assumption he's too much. I don't think he'll come here, but for the reasons that were listed, made me actually think. So once again, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. And as always, if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks as well as Abbotsford Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button. You really help out the channel. And also turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss a single video that we post. Also, find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. Feel free to give us a follow on Facebook as well. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can also find us on Twitter /X at Line Change Fan. You can also find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. And as I mentioned, feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer a audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free, as I just mentioned as well, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. And that's going to do it for this video. As always, go Canucks go, and I'll see you guys in the next video.